With another episode of the Battle Arena now officially in the history books, Pinhead versus Ash is going to be the topic of discussion here today, as joining me right now to tackle the subject of Pinhead versus Ash is my good friend and YouTuber that goes by the name of Mark9. Now Mark, this has been a very highly requested fight in the fandom, as many people wanted to pit up to see where Ash would stand against Pinhead, and to everyone watching this video right now, down the comment section below what we want to know from you, who do you guys believe would win in a fight between Ash versus Pinhead in the real world and Ash versus Pinhead in Hell, because of course Hell would be the perfect setting for the two, as I probably already know your stance on this, as I firmly do believe that you think that Ash would actually take it. And what's interesting about this is there are so many fans within the fandom that actually agree in the overall idea that Ash is simply a busted character, especially if he possesses the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead, because essentially from that point on he is able to either send anybody back to hell or to essentially kind of use all of those hacks against said opposition. But in this case right now, to kind of run with the idea, if they were to battle in the real world, then I'm sorry to say I think that perhaps maybe Ash would stand a much better chance against Pinhead in the real world versus Hell. But I'm sorry to say, because I know that you are on the opposite side of the fence of this, but if we're taking this fight and we're pitting them both up in Hell, then I firmly do believe that Pinhead would have the significant advantage over Ash, and more than likely even go as far as to torture him while he's down there. So Mark, if we're taking Pinhead and we're taking Ash and we're taking all of their best attributes and the qualities that make them who they are, then I guess by starting off in a real world setting, who do you think takes the cake between the two and why?
Ash wins hands down, 100% every outcome. I think that also speaks a lot, because Pinhead is, in my opinion, the most diabolical, the most powerful, and the most dastardly of all the horror icons. He may not be the most popular, he may not be your favorite, like he's not my favorite. Like, in my opinion, like, I mean, I love Ghostface and Jason, those are my two, like, tippy-top favorites. And Pinhead is actually way down on the list for me. So I say that just because I want to make sure you understand that I'm not being biased. Like, I'm not saying Pinhead is more powerful than your favorite icon because I like Pinhead more. I just think factually, he's the only one that cannot be stopped in any way, shape, or form. The rest all can and have been. I think the only reason why a lot of the villains end up going as far as they do is just because they need to have an out in order to make new movies, which is like a roll your eyes moment, duh. Like, and I get where you're coming from with that, but I think logically, if you look at how these villains get their powers and how strong they are and what their motivations are and how they're defeated in the end, it's typically just like a Goosebumps walk away moment, you know, where like you turn your head for a quick moment and you look back and the corpse is missing. Pinhead is the other one. You know that he's out there 100% every time. You know that you're not going to kill him. You know that you're not going to, he's an immortal. He's the only one that is not bound by human laws and physics, where he's able to just be slowed down. You can't stop him. Freddy is dead, but he still has a human body. You can stop that. And his powers are only contained to Elm Street. I mean, I said this before, and I'm going to say it again because I firmly believe it. Like, it's not a nightmare in Miami. It's not a nightmare on Cobalt Avenue. Like, it's just Elm Street. Like, that's it. That his powers are great and vast, but they are self-contained only to that little area. He had to manipulate Jason in order to bring about the fear and get strong again. Jason, for example, like, he's just a dumb Cenobite who wants to, a dumb Deadite who's just, haunting the campgrounds or whatever that he's at, and he rarely goes astray unless he is somehow kidnapped and forced like he was in Jason X, or how he was manipulated by Freddy to leave. But ultimately, he just wants to be left alone. Like, he's one of the very few killers where he's like, just stay out of my property and I won't kill you. Like, he doesn't go actively out and seek victims. It's stupid people that could go and encroach on his property. Ash has defeated them all, and he has beaten them all in every way, shape, and form, because the one thing that Ash has that none of them do is humanity. And you're probably thinking like, well, what the hell does that mean? Well, keep in mind that the reason why these villains are so scary is because they don't really fear much. Freddy may fear fire, maybe Jason fears, water and drowning, or maybe a picture of his mom or something like that. But these are beings that don't have a fear of what humans fear. Humans can be killed, like, permanently, and they know that. And that's why they're afraid of these horror icons is because they're doomed. You're going to die most likely if you face one of these, unless you're a virgin or something like that, right? And I think what it means to be human means to fight harder than anything else. Pinhead has his motivations, but he's lost his humanity. And if he gets sent to hell, he knows that he's just going to plot and try to come back. Michael Myers, depending on which version you take of him, I mean, he already lost against Jason against Ash in the comics. Because I'm a firm believer that all of the material with Ash, because of the Necronomicon and the multiversal travel that he has, he did do all of those things. The Ash that we see in the TV show, the most recent one, the older Ash, he doesn't outright reference like Marvel heroes and all of his like travels. He pretty much just says to people like, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. And I think that is a great way to say everything that he's done in the novel tie-ins, the comic books, the crossovers, all that stuff actually did happen, or he maybe even questions himself if it happened because of all the horrors and things that he's dealt with, and plus all the drinking and everything that he does to try and forget. But we know that he's dealt with Marvel zombies, we know that he's dealt with Marvel werewolves, which was a rad thing actually that, was a Marvel Zombies versus Army of Darkness. Like, that actually happened. And there was a planned crossover in film for Ash versus some of the other horror icons. But they ended up doing it in a comic book form instead because of, rights and everybody wanting, more money than the other guy. And so the film didn't happen, which is a real bummer. But he did defeat, I believe, Jason, and I believe he did defeat Freddy, and he did defeat Michael. He defeated them all. Now, the biggest, most toughest one would be Pinhead for sure. And I think like you pointed out, the Necronomicon is a great tool that would give him an advantage in order to find a way to manipulate Pinhead and trap him. But the thing is, again, is Pinhead is not permanently defeated. But if there was a spell that would trap Pinhead in for, however long need to be, so that way Ash could live out his life and then die in peace, Ash would find it. The other thing with Ash is that unlike the other conversations that we've had, Ash is a good guy. And the forces of good always win. Always. Now I know that's sort of like kind of a BS way to like win the debate, but let's break it down for a minute. Why? Good and evil, man-made constructs, right? Like, whatever. Ipso facto, what it means to be evil is to be good from someone else. One man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, and terrorist freedom fighter, whatever. Like, it all depends on perspective. Pinhead probably doesn't believe that he's evil, although he is in hell, so maybe there is some sort of self-awareness there that he is. And I don't think the original human that he was, Elliot Spencer, I don't think the guy that he was, I don't remember in the movie when they first introduced him as a human in like I think it was like a World War I or II or something. I don't remember him being a good or a bad guy, I don't remember. But regardless, he ended up being sent to hell, getting all these powers. And I think that he has a notion and understanding of what he's doing is wrong. But even if that's the case, I think there's a lot of demons and things that root for him and that are on his side and support him. So maybe he doesn't think that he's wrong. So it's hard to say. So if you're going to say good and evil, okay, you can't use that as okay, fine. But I think Ash is his resolve, and I think his desire to want to live. Even though he's a good guy and that we root for him, you have to remember, Ash is a very selfish son of a bitch. Like, that guy is super self-serving. Anytime he ever goes out of his way for anyone, there's always like a catch or it's guilt. It's not because it's the right thing to do. Like, he's always pressured into doing the right thing, and he doesn't care. He wants to drink those crappy homemade trailer park margaritas and just be left the hell alone. But he keeps getting sucked into it. But they never beat him. And it's partly because he's human and his resolve, and yes, partly because he's a good guy, but it's also because he's sort of an idiot. And I think everything that he's seen and experienced, he has luck on his side. He stumbles through every single problem, every obstacle. He defeats it when all odds are stacked against him. The dude he has taken on literal armies of darkness. The dude has taken on dozens of demons. The guy has taken on zombified superheroes. All right? The dude has hacked apart some of the Avengers. Like, this guy is unstoppable. And I think Pinhead going after a normal human being who he's been defeated by before, which often is him just, being locked away for a little while until the sequel comes out. I think with Ash's knowledge, either he's going to remember a spell properly because of all the times that he's used it, or more likely, he's going to remember a spell incorrectly. And it's going to cause Pinhead to be defeated, like, permanently, by accident. Because Ash is human, Ash is good, selfish but good, but he's also lucky as hell. And I think that luck is the one thing that keeps him going. And you could almost argue that he might be superhuman himself, like a la Domino, with the amount of luck that the dude has. And I don't think you're going to defeat Ash. I think the only person that defeats Ash is Ash with his bad choices, but you throw a demon at him, no, he's gonna win. You're gonna throw a monster at him, no, he's gonna overcome that. You take Pinhead, the baddest of the bad, Ash is gonna somehow accidentally try and do one thing and gonna result in another, and it's gonna stop Pinhead for good. That's what's gonna happen because that is Ashley J. Williams.
See, now, not for nothing, I think that Ash's stupidity would more than likely kind of piss Pinhead off, because we've seen countless times where people had escaped Pinhead, and as soon as Pinhead had found them or had these individuals brought to them, he would just unleash, no pun intended, hell on them by torturing them and literally shredding them in hell, in this alternate, dimension that humans are just completely unaware of or have never been to, right? So if we're gonna be basing that, and we're going to be bringing Ash in hell, and now we have Ash versus Pinhead in hell, I think that, in my own opinion, judging based on everything that Pinhead kind of has to his arsenal, it's kind of hard to believe that Ash, despite all of his luck, despite all of his humanity, despite everything that he can throw at Pinhead, it's kind of hard to believe that he would endure this, especially if Pinhead ends up, just spawning endless amounts of Cenobites and legions of demons that I'm pretty sure Pinhead has control of, and just the sheer manipulation of the environment. I don't see Ash really doing anything to get out of that situation, but let's just say the fight now were to happen in hell. Do you still favor Ash, or do you think Pinhead takes it?
Ash will still win. And it's not, I mean, we're talking about power versus power, strength versus strength. If you do that, if you literally break it down to the most basic form of comparison, then Ash loses every fight, because he's not a superhuman. He's not strong enough to face off against Michael Myers. Like, the fear, strength, and abilities, like, he has none. He has no power. He has no strength. He just has the book, which is more of a shield than a sword. But let's just remove the book out of the equation. Let's even say that he might have the book and that the book doesn't work in hell. Whatever the situation is, the fact remains that Ash Williams is the weapon. And I think one of the main reasons why these supervillain, or I guess horror icons, slasher icons, whatever you want to call them, the reason why they lose is partly because they're not human, or they've lost their humanity, which is what I said before. A human is going to fight with everything it has down to the core of its soul in order to come out on top, and many of them don't. But the one other thing that I think a lot of horror icons struggle with when it comes to facing off a human is the underestimating the opponent. Pinhead is not going to look at someone like you or me and feel threatened, because we're nothing. We're just bags of meat filled with blood and bone to keep it all standing. That's all we are. You look at Ash Williams, he's a bigger idiot than anyone I know, despite the fact that he's a fictional character and I don't know him, but you get what I'm saying. He's a total blockhead, a total dunderhead. Pinhead would not think twice about him as a threat at all. And that would be why he would lose, is because Ash Williams would use that to his advantage, unwittingly so, and Pinhead would be defeated by that. His own arrogance would get in his way. I think partially because of how I've described Pinhead, I believe that Pinhead, being the most powerful of the slasher icons or horror icons, also makes him the most arrogant, the most incapable of seeing errors in his ways. I think he's going to constantly make that mistake. And I think he's going to make that mistake so much that it's going to give Ash a hell of a run for his money, because it's going to be the hardest enemy he's ever had to face. But I think ultimately he would still win in some way. It might not even be in the same day, the same week, the same year. Maybe Pinhead gets the upper hand and, ties him up and tortures him for years or whatever. But if that's the case, like, I would have to imagine that whatever would happen would be that Ash is locked away in hell being tortured. And I think that would change him, for one, make him stronger, if not crazy, but it would make him even more unpredictable. So how do you handle an unpredictable idiot? Well, you probably can't. It's kind of like how a lot of enemies can't deal with Deadpool. Like, it's why Taskmaster, who can like completely like analyze, interpret, and then use every single enemy's moves as his own, can't do anything against Deadpool, because Deadpool is a crazy buffoon that you can't predict. And I wouldn't give Ash as much credit because he's not anywhere near as capable or deadly as Deadpool with a weapon. But Ash is just purely idiotic. He's a total blockhead, but he's, I think, down at his core, despite his selfishness, he is a good person, or just enough there to be considered a good person. And I think that little tiny spark that's inside of him would be what motivates him and pushes him to find a way out. He's going to manipulate some other Cenobite, he's going to take on some other enemy, and he's going to learn from them, and he's going to figure some way to survive. I think a character like him doesn't make it this far without actually like picking up any real skills. I understand completely that he's constantly misquoting the Necronomicon. I understand that the dude is constantly drunk. Like, I get all that, but I think if he really, really tried, he could memorize something useful to get him out of a circumstance where it's like he's bound and tortured and he gets a spell that gets him free or something like that. He might not succeed the first time, the second time, or the 22nd time, but I think he will ultimately come out, because I think Pinhead is the type that would not want to kill Ash. He would see him as a fly and try to swat him away. And if that swat kills him, fine. If not, whatever, you're a fly. You are so insignificant in the grand scheme of what he's trying to accomplish and what he wants to do, which I think is ultimately try to bring hell on earth and merge everything all together so he can like rule it, I think is the idea. I might be way off, so feel free to correct me if I'm mistaken, but that's what I seem to remember about Pinhead's motivations. So I think when you have the big picture like that, like he's not even a drop on the radar there. It wouldn't factor into the equation at all. But let's say, for example, that Ash does become a problem. And let's say that he does cause a bunch of chaos and a bunch of irritations for Pinhead to where he's like, okay, like this is total BS. Like, why is this tiny little ant like creating a mountain of problems for me? I don't think that he would squash that ant. I think he would try to use Ash as a means of sending a message, make an example of him to showcase any other human that tries to rise up. Like, you know, resistance is useless. Like, there's no reason to even try. Like, let Ashley J. Williams be like the example. And I think he would try to torture him for all eternity. He wouldn't kill him. And I think that would be his folly by not going through with it. And I think ultimately that would just give Ash ample opportunity. Now, if you were just going to say like, okay, let's put them in a boxing ring, yeah, Pinhead's going to win. Five seconds, easy. Or not even 5 seconds. Like, it would just be not even a second. He would just open up portal chains and cut his head off. Boom, it's done. But that's not the point of these conversations. The point of these conversations is to analyze the strengths and the weaknesses of both opponents. Pinhead's strength is his ability to use all of hell as a powerful force. His weakness is that he's arrogant as shit about it. He's lost his humanity. He doesn't have a will to survive because he's an immortal. He knows he's going to survive. He has no fear of death. I mean, why would you? Why would you fear death if you can't die? Ash, on the other hand, is a human. He has that fight. He knows that he can die. He knows that he's not going to live forever. But the dude is going to do everything he can to survive just so he can make it to the Tuesday 5 p.m. showing of the nudie bar, you know, and look at the C Squad out there for discounts on beer and cocktails. Like, that's the type of guy that he is. He will fight forever so he doesn't miss that. And that's something that Pinhead can't understand. He can't comprehend that. He has no humanity left, and he has no ability to even conceive that notion. And I think that's where Ash wins, his drive to survive and his blockheadedness and his unpredictability. I think that's what makes him the winner.
Yeah, but even then, I think that by going into the domain of Pinhead, there's no way that I think Ash would be able to kind of get himself out of that sticky situation unless somehow, like you've mentioned, maybe he can use dumb luck to his advantage and do something with the Necronomicon to get him out of hell, which again isn't really outside the realm of possibility, but I really honestly don't see Pinhead letting him escape, especially if he knows that Ash possesses the Book of the Dead. But let us know down in the comment section below, Pinhead versus Ash in the real world and Pinhead versus Ash in hell. Who do you guys have and why? Let us know down below. Also, if there are any other 2 characters that you guys want to see us discuss and talk about and just essentially have battled, then let us know down in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for being here. If you guys are new, then be sure to go ahead and smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications. That way you guys never miss a single video posted onto the channel. On top of giving this video a big fat thumbs up by smashing that like button down below. Also, make sure you guys follow Mark9's YouTube channel. I will leave his link located down below as well. Thank you all so much for being here. Mark, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll be seeing each and every single one of you down in the comment section below and in the next video. Take it easy, guys, and have a great day. Peace.